Welcome to another episode of the Unitrans podcast. Today, we want to have a conversation about the role logistics companies play beyond moving goods, focusing on collaboration with communities and shared value as long-term progress is supported through partnerships with communities. We are joined by Head of Business Development, Basil Govender, and Business Development Manager, Nortando Sevilla. Please share with us a bit about your roles, and we look forward to having a discussion about collaboration as a foundation for trust, resilience, and mutual benefits. Welcome.
Privileged to be here and to be part of this conversation on partnerships and collaborations, because that's crucial in our world in terms of mobility and moving people. At Unitrans Passenger, our role is to focus on how we commercially design, sustain, and implement passenger transport operations and mobility solutions. And intrinsic to the success of that is collaboration and partnerships. And Nortando and I are tasked with the go-to-market view on what a solution would be like to collaborate, to partner. And in and around that, our operations are in and around communities. So it is intrinsic that we build partnerships and collaborate for a sustainable partnership going forward.
Maybe just to reinforce what Basil is saying, we operate the personnel vertical, especially in the mines. So the mining communities then have a strong reliance on us, our expertise, our ability to move them to the mining sites on time, safely, and within a risk-free environment. So we do that through collaboration with the communities.
Amazing. So tell us, logistic companies operate at the heart of many communities, as you just mentioned. Why are community partnerships important for long-term operational sustainability?
So essentially, operational and commercial sustainability is really about having stability, short-term, long-term, and sustainable. And in my experience, that stability comes inevitably from alignment with community stakeholders. When communities understand and see what our role is in the mobility ecosystem, they start to believe and support. And without their support, you cannot really forge partnerships. And if you think about it, it's really a social compact, right? Because we are a service provider, but we're a service provider in a social ecosystem. And the people we move need to trust, believe, and see that it adds value in their lives. And forging strong relations and stakeholder partnerships is crucial to our success.
Fantastic. So tell us, what does meaningful collaboration with communities look like beyond CSI or once-off initiatives?
It really becomes a discussion of where we put that engagement and that relationship within our own ecosystem, in the sense that collaboration then just doesn't become just a once-off initiative, but rather it's a relationship building exercise that enables us to take our communities and our SMMEs who we collaborate with along on the journey. So whether it be through imparting critical business skills like business communication, for example, like taxation practices, or any sort of value that we can add to the SMMEs. It enables us then to take them along with us on the journey so that we are able to make a sustainable impact in their lives. So not just for the short term, but intrinsically into the future.
These partnerships can't be symbolic. They cannot be just to tick boxes and to meet requirements. They need to operationalize meaningfully. And I think what we've developed, and I strongly believe in the passenger environment, what we are evolving with is plan together, deliver services together, and learn together, touching on the transfer of skills. So we may have partners that are minority, but through a process, we create new entities that are self-standing and should be self-standing. So it's a lived daily process rather than an operational exercise to get business.
Touch on some practical examples, like our Trans partnerships with the JV that we have within Passenger, MB Transport, Lebzotic. Those are partnerships that are really adding value to their lives. They're giving them insight into how our world works in terms of business. And we have ManCo sessions that we sit in on a quarterly basis, that we then are able to take them through the financials. So they are not just exposed to, oh, okay, at the end of the day, we are transporting people, but the back end of things actually work as well.
Very interesting indeed. Tell us, how do partnerships with local communities support operational resilience, trust, and constructive working relationships?
All contractual relationships do face inevitable challenges. It's a coming together of parties with differing desires, differing outcomes. So it talks to understanding what the end goal is and managing service pressures, economic realities, changing expectations. You really see the value of partnerships where strong relationships exist. And that's our work. Forging the relationships, cementing strong relationships. So good and difficult discussions are handled together at a mature level. And more importantly, the critical conversations happen a lot earlier than sort of problem-orientated solving. So both parties to the journey that Ntando references are stepping through learning processes of working together, but learning to measure and understand the outcomes that are required, some of the parts type processes. Some crucial successes we had in partnerships like IQ and Penduka is a multi-layered, complex stakeholder base. It evolves from ground up with taxi operators represented in an entity that is then co-joined with Unitrans to deliver front-facing service to the public, which the public don't see, but it takes an intricate work of collaborative competence to deliver that service on a day-to-day basis.
And I think maybe just to add, I think also our unwavering support towards something as, some might call mundane, but for us it's an intrinsic value that we live by daily, the value of safety. So when we take our communities along with us on the journey as I've outlined, it takes that into consideration and how well that they then perceive our operations to be aligned to those values. Because, we can agree those are shared values.
Definitely. Speaking about shared values, community partnerships work best where they do create that shared value. From your experience, what does mutual benefit look like in practice for both the communities and the logistics operator?
When operational success and local participation actually reinforce each other in such a way that there is common understanding of our operational environment insofar as how we then conduct ourselves as a business. Baz, I'm not sure if you want to add.
Drawing on examples of success. So we have a collaborative partnership within Mega Express, which is a managed services operation in our world, but front-facing, it is the part of the Gautrain ecosystem. Okay, so that talks to an elaborate partnership behind, but front-facing, it is the daily feeder and distribution services. So put in context, it takes on queue, on train arrival, people away from the Gautrain stations and also bringing them to stations. And then referencing back here to IQ and Penduka as well. They're great local examples. They're partnership enabled and we get growth whilst maintaining strong local relevance and presence. And there's elements in all of them with SED program. So we draw employment from local, we do transfer of skills local, and we're creating competence in that. So yeah, it's not about just balancing social outcomes against performance. The actual performance in its total service solution becomes the greater delivery and on a sustainable level.
What would you say makes those partnerships quite effective?
Ability to use different competences from the different parties and harness that towards delivering a solution front-facing that is seamless and operates almost like clinically. And those that are almost taken for granted, where people come in from different communities on a daily basis, but work in our workshops, drive our buses, and sort of are out on the field managing operations. together with a complex ecosystem like, generally it's frowned upon, partnering with taxi associations or taxi ventures. But we've gained competence to be able to do that and evolve that to work with government at different levels and deliver on those kind of solutions. So it's about coming together from different sort of streams for a common purpose to ensure mobility is serviced and delivered sustainably.
Just to further add would be around sourcing of the local labor. In that space, when we engage the communities beforehand, before the operations, in terms of the sourcing of local labor, the drivers themselves that are able to feed their families, that is a shared value right there. It's not only for us to make a profit, but we are saying we are putting, we are making a difference in terms of somebody's life, somebody's family. Somebody is going to be able to take their kids to school. Somebody is going to move on beyond Unitrans at the end of the day, and they're going to be able to use that knowledge that we have given them in terms of the training that we put them through, the experience that they gain behind the wheel, and we're able to create then a platform for shared value right there.
Fantastic. So it goes beyond the actual partnership. It actually really enriches somebody's life.
Absolutely, and the local sourcing as well. Wherever we can, we try to utilize local suppliers. We don't just focus on the SMMEs or the job creations, but where we can extensively, we will source local goods within the environment that we operate, rather than going to the major towns or the major cities. So we want to keep the economy of that particular area serviced as well.
That is fantastic. So tell us, as partnerships evolve, what principles help ensure collaboration with communities that it still remains constructive, respectful, and sustainable over time?
Fundamentally, we have to be appreciative of the brand that we represent and the brand equity that we have managed to build behind the Unitrans brand. And so, however, that in itself does not garner, a blind loyalty. Communities can have a inkling to not trusting the entities. So for us, fundamentally, the principle would be trust. We trust our communities to trust us in order for us to be able to service the community through the engagements and the partnerships that we then have.
It taps back a little bit into that co-creation aspect. When you look at it coldly, it sounds abstract, but it's actually quite simple. And I think I'll talk to sort of a classic current implementation. It's a buzzword in our organization. Our Zanzibar project is flagship on many levels. We're on the island of Zanzibar. Remotely speaking, one would never conceive that there's a need for public transport on an island like Zanzibar. But here we are. We are the end-to-end solution provider on the island to transcend them from not just a sort of current generation mobility to an alternative energy electric vehicle solution on the island. So the macro implications for the island is huge, because it touches the people on the island, it touches tourists, and it talks to sustainable transition. Now, in terms of partnership, it was the government, it is the people on the island who have existed for centuries doing mobility the way they do it in the dala-dalas, and there's a whole ecosystem of employment, and the whole project is Unitrans. The concept on the island is that Unitrans has brought us to the island, but it's literally the vision of the government and the people to transition to a modern public transport system. So we've had to collaborate with the existing operators, their employees, communities along the way, and various government stakeholders. And in and of itself, Stone Town is a UNESCO heritage site. To design a public transport system around that without interfering on the UNESCO approved processes took a whole lot of collaborative networking and partnershiping. And we're proud to say that that's a lived example of how you involve everybody, and drawing employment from the Zanzibar community to make this a success was entrenched from the beginning. Outside of the specialized skills that we've dropped on the island, everything else is draw from the community and the citizens. And happy to say we one click away. We're a bit behind on the sort of implementation date, but it's deliberate. It speaks to the earlier part. You do all the difficult planning and conversations together. So when you take the step, everybody is aligned. And I think that's an embodiment of true collaboration, true partnership amongst multi-layered in a land and a country we've never operated before, with the legal constraints and everything. I think from a Unitrans point of view, we are proud to say we've done exceptionally well, but we look forward to the launch. That will be the flagship of collaborative partnerships.
Through this episode, we've learned that progress is strongest when it's built collaboratively. Thank you, Basil and Notando, for highlighting how collaboration with communities supports outcomes that extend beyond day-to-day operations. You've helped us see that partnerships rooted in trust and mutual benefit are essential to long-term progress.